Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We rented movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained as pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the favorite bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's party.
If you're talking 24 hours a day, it's gonna cost you.
Oh, yes, of course. All right, here we go. Give me a ballpark figure. How much?
6 full nights, days to 4,000.
6 nights at 300 is 1,800.
You want days too?
2,000.
3,000.
Done.
Holy shit!
Guys, welcome to the Large Marge Santa's podcast, your favorite podcast where two sweetie sisters talk about their favorite flicks from childhood. I'm Sweetie with a Y.
And I'm Sweetie with an IE.
And continuing on, Sweetie with a Y's picks, finally, that she gets to pick, I have chosen...
Pretty woman walking down the street. Pretty woman, the kind I like to meet.
Oh, was that the line? I didn't realize that. Yeah, so I was just like, like scoping out the movies on streaming devices. Came across this one. I was like, Sweetie hates this movie. But I think that it is a popular movie. I think it's a movie that a lot of people enjoy. And I think that we should do it and that we should suck it up and watch it.
Here's the thing. I don't want you spreading rumors that I hate this movie.
You told me you hate it.
I have a love-hate relationship with this movie.
Let's see.
For 2 reasons. One, Julia Roberts. I have a love-hate for Julia Roberts, depending on what she is.
Mostly hate?
No, it's just like, I saw her in Notting Hill, and I fucking hate that character, and you're kind of supposed to hate that character anyway, and it just really got me off the Julia Roberts bandwagon. Then I really have problems with these like prostitutes, like heart of gold stories. I'm sorry. They're unrealistic and prostitution is not going to work out that way for you.
But you enjoyed Milk Money so much.
I enjoy both of the movies about prostitutes. That's why I'm concerned. But like, it's challenging. I had a great time watching this movie. I laughed. I almost cried at the end. I swallowed it down because I didn't want you to make fun of me because I said I hated this movie. In the end, I almost cried.
I was going to write down bets on if Sweetie will cry or not. And then
oh man, I was so close. And you know what? I think also part of it, this has been a great exercise. This whole podcast, obviously, great exercise of watching movies later on in your life. And I think as like an older woman in your mid-30s who isn't married yet, and you're like
is a prostitute.
And I'm not a prostitute. That like when you see that kind of romance stuff like that, you're like, oh my god, if someone climbed up like a rickety fire escape for me with a thing of roses, like I'd melt. But as a little kid when I watched this, of course, like I didn't understand like what those feelings were, or like I don't know. So I think it's really beneficial to watch these movies later and being like, oh yeah, because I did like it much more than I think I like have a resurgence. What do you call it when you like look at things differently in the second time?
Seems to be a trend with you in movies that you refuse to watch, and then I pick them, and you begrudgingly watch them.
Who
and
refused
then
to
like
watch
them.
this?
I'm going back to the fact that every time I'm like, maybe we should do Pretty Woman, you're always like, ugh.
I don't remember that discussion happening
Let's
ever.
pull up
first
the text
of all,
message from this morning when I said I choose Pretty Women,
and I go, ugh, but I think that'll be really good to talk about because I have mixed feelings about it. So I was excited in my own way.
You're like a can of mixed nuts. All right. Well,
I love
guess
mixed nuts.
I know.
Except the
What's
Brazilian.
your favorite nut? We'd always give those to the
out.
dog.
Though, again, just like with Pretty Woman, I've been like getting a mixed nut recently, and I will eat the Brazil nuts. They're delicious.
Everything changes when you're 35.
Oh my God, you guys, become 35. Your whole life is just going to turn upside down.
Oh my God, I love it.
It's going to be crying.
I love it.
Pretty Woman from 1990, directed by Gary Marshall.
Gary with 2 R's.
You know, whether it's Gary or Penny, man, I love that brother-sister combo movies. They always do a good job, I feel like. And this movie is smooth as silk. It's really good. It's funny. It's heartwarming. I think he did an excellent job. Obviously, star of this film,
Julia Roberts.
The Julia Roberts bomb went off after this movie, right? I mean, this rocketed her to stardom. Pew, pew. And I learned today that she got an Oscar nomination for it, which I think, honestly, okay, first of all, for like a comedy rom-com, that must have been kind of crazy. 2, totally deserved. Because like the little thing she does in this movie completely sells this movie and completely wins you. I mean, who doesn't love Vivian? I mean, she's the best. She's the best. Awesome. Her love interest, unfortunately, is Richard Gere. I mean, he's fine. What do you think of Richard Gere?
I think his eyes are too small or something. He has like beady eyes. He's super wet blanket.
And you know he's supposed to be in this. But I think Vivian's too good for him. I'm like, blanket. He's kind of a dud.
Oh, he's such a dud, which we'll talk about. But yeah,
which is like the theme of the world, right? You have these like amazing women who are like shackled to these dud skis.
Yeah, he just bores the pants off me. And he has one of those like tricky things where he's all gray and stuff, but he's not that old.
How old do you think he's supposed to be in the movie?
Well, in real life, he was 40, like when he made this, I think. So
I think there's like a 20 age gap supposed to be, maybe. Like she's in her mid-20s and he's in his mid-40s. Maybe?
Or early 40s? Early 40s.
Yeah,
maybe.
early. Yeah. And she's early 20s.
But when I was little, I always just assumed he was super old. So I think that always kind of grossed me out. And so I never really embraced it from
he's good looking. I mean, compared to like the other people she has to probably fucking sleep with, like, hello. Like, thank God.
True.
Jason Alexander, in a very troubling role, scarred me for life. Could never look at George Costanza again. He's a raper. I mean, there's no nicer way to put it.
But let's be honest. I feel like George Costanza
kind of is a raper.
Yes, like I don't think it's that far of a leap.
He plays that character really well.
Yeah,
so good for Stuckey.
Scuzzbucket.
I mean, if your name is Stuckey, like you're basically a raper.
Sweetie was like obsessed with this fact at dinner tonight when we were eating. She's like, okay, first of all, if your name is Stuckey, you're obviously a raper. And I was like, I think that's his last name. And you're like, what last name is Stuckey? I'm like, I don't know. Who are we to judge
and
last
if your
names?
name is Stuckey, why would people like call you that like affectionately? Like his name's Philip, right?
Because it's a silly name.
Yeah, it is silly and it sucks.
We just watched Stand By Me.
His wife is Mrs. Stuckey. I mean, that's the worst. Poor Amy
can't pick it. You can't pick it. I mean, you could change it, I guess, but you know, it's family. It's family.
He's Stuckey.
But yeah, that's it. And then anyone else?
And then some small bit players. What did I say that guy's name was? Hector Elizondo as the amazing, what do you call that guy in a hotel who concierge? Yeah, like kind of director of the hotel, who really helps Vivian out. I mean, he just really saves the day there, and I feel like that guy always plays that kind of role. Like he was that in Princess Diaries, you said, right? Like butler saving the day.
I mean, those are the only two I know.
Yeah, but still, I just like. That's just what I connect him for. And then her friend Kit is someone who's like semi well known or was at that time.
Is she in other movies?
Yeah. No, I can't think of her name. But she's really funny.
Yeah, I love her.
She's such a fun little friend.
Love her.
Love that sidekick. But overall, this movie is about Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. So much so that they were like, oh my God, they're the greatest chemistry ever. Let's put them in another movie 10 years later called Runaway Bride. And it's really bad. It wasn't that great.
Did you see that in the movie theater? I remember you going to see that. What is that? Yeah. She's like decides she doesn't want to get married to Richard Gere and then runs away on a horse. She is
a runaway bride. So he's a journalist, and they like get wind that there's this woman who like keeps like going like getting married and makes it to the aisle and like is in her wedding dress and then just like flips out and runs away. So she's done it to a couple different men. So they do a story on her, and he's the reporter, and then they fall in love. And then does she run away on him? Ooh, I won't tell you. Spoiler.
Oh. And then the Dixie Chicks are like, ready to run. Yeah. That's pretty
ready
good.
to run.
What a time to be alive.
Oh, totally.
I remember the old people freaking out about that reunion, I'll tell you.
Right. Oh, definitely. And like they do have good chemistry in this, but mostly it's all on the shoulders of Julia Roberts because she has good chemistry with everybody. Yeah. She could have chemistry with a mop. I mean, the girl can work it.
And Richard Gere's like,
look at me. Oh my God, I'm so rich and like I just get my ass wiped all day. Yeah.
That was a really good reenactment of Richard Gere and Pretty Woman.
Hi, I'm Richard Gere and my ass gets wiped all day by people who like want my money. No. But okay, Pretty Woman, first time I saw this movie, I think I was like pretty late to this game, but I remember my friends, the Peachy twins, hey, shout out. They were obsessed with this movie, like loved it. My friend Liz loved the part where she's like she would like quote this movie all the time when she was like pretty little. And now looking back, you're like, that's so inappropriate. But like that was just the 90s for you. And she would always quote the condom scene where she's like, I got red, I got yellow, I got purple, I got blue. And then like talks about like
That's such a random part to
I
quote.
know, and she loved it.
How old were you at this time?
So probably, how old were we? Like, well, so this movie came out in 90, so I would have been 7 when it came out. So this was probably, I was like between 10 and 12 when
Did
we
she
were
know
like,
they were condoms?
yes. And so we watched it at her grandparents' house. I remember in their this awesome, like, they're kind of wealthy, and they had this like awesome basement that was basically like a little home theater with like a big screen and everything, I think, or like a big TV anyway. And it was the first time I saw it, and I was like, oh my God, this movie is like so scandalous. The piano sex scene like scarred me for life. And then the sexual assault scene as well. I mean, we'll talk about those later. So that's when I first saw it and knew I was like way too young to be watching it, but was like super thrilled that I was like, oh my God, it's not a prostitute. I'm watching this and I'm so excited. So that was my first like connection to it.
Okay. I don't really remember mine. I know my friend Sarah Horton was like obsessed with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, or maybe just this movie too. So I remember she was like really freaking out when Runaway Bride came out. Her and her mom were like, oh my God. And I think I don't know. I have one memory of watching this in the basement, like the whole way through, which I don't think I'd ever done before. And I remember getting like choked up at the end also, even though I was like a wee tot and like I couldn't have been like that affected
You're
by
romantic
it.
at heart though.
I'm a sensitive.
You are.
Wait,
I've never
me?
been, yeah. I feel like you have a little more romance than I do. I will say that, okay, so I feel like I haven't even seen that movie that much. Like, I don't think I've seen this movie 10 times, like maybe if that, I don't know, probably less, maybe 5 total. And like, this is a movie, like whatever you think of it, is like kind of in the pop culture canon is kind of like what I was saying, because there's just some lines that are very famous that are like from this movie that only if you've only seen it a couple times, you can like quote them, which is pretty awesome for a movie if you think about it. Like, and I think just mostly because it did, like I said, like skyrocket. This was like her starting point. I know she did other movies before this. So Steel Magnolia she did before this.
Yeah.
Mystic Pizza.
Yep.
But then after this, it was like boom, 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 boom. Julia, busy, 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 busy. So, and I think that's kind of why it like sits in people's minds and stuff too. And also because it was like kind of scandalous, you know, like, ooh, prostitute, like finding love, but very like PG prostitute story. Because I'll tell you, well, after maybe we go through the synopsis, I'll tell you like the alternate plot that they were really going to go with, and they completely changed it.
Oh my God. I
know.
can't wait.
You will be shocked.
I love it. All right. So without further ado,
It's time for the sweetie synopsis. Yeah, sweeties. Welcome to Hollywood. What's your dream?
wow.
Oh, that guy.
My dream would be to own my own restaurant. I don't know. I don't have any dreams.
You want to be a prostitute? Just confess.
You know me so well. Yeah. So Edward Lewis is a 40-year-old, who knows how old, investor ? What's his job title? He never actually says it, which is very frustrating.
Yeah.
Because like, what are you, man?
Well, he's
what
explains his job. So he buys companies and then he breaks them up into smaller companies.
So he's
That's
an
the basis
asshole.
of the job.
So he's like the big guy that comes in and buys it and then fires it.
Yeah, like what's that? Like, you know who did that? Like Mitt Romney, like Bain Capital, that company he had, I think was kind of like that. Like they would come in and they'd buy a company and then they'd sell it to another company, or they'd break it up and sell parts of it. What is that called? I don't know.
Could it be mergers and acquisitions?
I was going to say that, but like, I think it's at least acquisitions, but like, is it merging? I don't know. Where's Melanie Griffith? Where's Harrison Ford?
I don't know.
Let us know.
So he's like at some like boring party thing, whatever. Anytime there's like business stuff in this, my eyes glaze over immediately, and
It's not important.
I'm like,
It's not important in the plot.
well, they spend a lot of fucking time on it,
They
so
do.
whatever. So he's at this party. He's like, I gotta get out of here. I'm so rich and bored and sad.
My limo's blocked in.
Yeah, he couldn't leave because the limo was there.
Poor guy.
We're in LA. So he's like, oh, let's take my friend Stuckey's car, who has this like crazy sports car that I don't know how to drive.
It's called a Lotus.
It's called a Lotus. And he just drives off with this stick shift car that he doesn't know how to drive. gets lost.
They said dick shift. Like, that's kind
Should
of
be.
awesome.
Yeah, new word, new phrase. So he drives it. He gets lost. Ends up on Hollywood Boulevard.
Hollywood Boulevard.
Where what's the crowd like on Hollywood Boulevard?
Okay, was I the only one who didn't know that there's like prostitutes running amok on Hollywood Boulevard? Like, who knew? I thought it was a Hollywood Walk of Fame.
I think it is, but maybe this is just at night.
Dang, yo.
But remember that scene in My Girl 2 when they go and they're like looking out the Hollywood, with the Grauman's or the Chinese theater. But then at night, doesn't it get a little scary? No, that's a different movie. Maybe that's The Craft.
That might be right.
That was The Craft. That was The Craft.
I mean, when we went to LA for Jeopardy last year, like we were desperately trying to make it down there, but we just like didn't have time. So we would have seen it like, live and in person how we made it, but we just did not.
Could have seen if there were or were not hookers.
I know. Sorry. Oh my God. I hope that there are and that like someone is a Julia Roberts prostitute as like sort of like that's their
What's
shtick.
a Julia Roberts prostitute?
Like they wear that outfit. That would be amazing.
It's a long con. Yeah. It's like still doing it. Wow. All these years later.
Well, her clients are like now, like if they're in their like mid-20s, they'll be like, "What's Pretty Woman?" Like,
Yeah, they're like, I don't know what the fuck that is. So he stops for directions. Who should be there but Vivian? No last name, or does she have a last name?
Ward.
All right. She's a sex worker, but she's a little different. She seems to have a sense of humor. She seems to be pretty smart. She's got a roommate named Kit who's not pretty smart. Does drugs. But, one thing about her is no pimp.
No pimp. You gotta go no pimp.
No
Don't do
pimp.
the pimp.
No pimp.
I mean, pimp. Right. Okay, what's like the plus for having a pimp?
You get more
customers?
clients, supposedly.
But you got to pay a percentage of your money to the pimp.
Yeah, this doesn't sound like
And
fun.
you get protection. I think it's a lot about protection, right, with pimps. Because, like, if someone, like, hurts you or anything, like, the
but
pimp
they
can,
seem
like,
to
come
knock
after you.
around their girls, so it's like,
know.
are you being protected?
I would go no pimp. I'd go no pimp
if
for
it was
sure.
a choice, I'd do no pimp.
I'd do no
Yeah.
pimp. And, like, Vivian knows what's up.
It's like an agent. It's like Vivian is Bill Murray and all the other sex workers or everybody else with their
And what
their
does she
pimps
say?
and their agents.
We decide when, we decide who, and we decide how much.
Exactly. So they need to pay their rent money because Kit spent it on drugs. Oops. And so this car pulls up and her friend Kit's like, "Oh, you gotta go. You gotta get him. He's probably got a ton of money. Don't take anything less than 100." So she goes over there and she's like, "Hey, like blah blah blah," and he's actually just lost and he can't like fucking figure out the stick shift because he's an idiot. Only has. I'm shocked
drive.
he knows how to even
Exactly.
drive a little bit. That's including any
Because
car, like an automatic
he grew up
car.
wealthy and is from New York
Yeah,
City.
and he said like his first. Yeah, why would he? Does he even have a license? I don't
Probably
think
not.
so. God,
But he has money.
He
Which
does.
Basically, is a license.
he does. So he's like, "Do you know where Beverly Hills is?" And she's like, "Yeah, $20." And so she gets a little money and then gets in the car. They start their relationship. She takes him.
Yeah,
to
so
the
he's
hotel.
like, "Do you know where this hotel is?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Yep, go here, here, here." And then it's like, eventually, like he decides that he wants to like hire her for the night, like anyway, like, "Oh, come up to my room," like whatever. So she goes up to the room, and then Edward is not used to hiring prostitutes. I think he has an ex-wife, and then at the start of the movie, his girlfriend broke up with him because he's like, I have more of a relationship with your secretary than like you. So he's just kind of like aloof, and he is really busy. So you're like, Ed, like maybe you cannot fit a girlfriend and a relationship with your lifestyle,
I know.
and he just doesn't realize that.
Yeah.
And really, prostitutes would be the best situation for him because he can get his needs met and pay for it, which he can totally afford, but then not have to actually do like the commitment part, right? Mm-hmm. So I think he kind of like thinks about this because he's like, well, I totally wouldn't mind getting laid, and I have the money to do it, right? So he hires her. But like I said, not a prostitute fella, so he doesn't really know what to do. So he's like, let's chat for a little bit. And she's like, dude, like I'm on the clock. Like I don't really want to like fucking have a chat session with you. Like let's do it and like.
But he paid in advance. He said
He gave her
he
100.
wants her to stay there the whole night.
Right. So then he goes, well, if I get like how much for the whole night? And she says 300. So she's like, okay, fine. So awesome. She really needs the money. And they have a nice night. Mm-hmm. What do they do?
First little BJ action. She grabs a cushion, puts it down. BJ action done. And then they have sex, which I don't think I realized when I was little. I thought she just did the blowjob, and I didn't think they had sex until later. But it's quite obvious to me now.
Well,
that
she
they
was
definitely
naked.
had sex. Yes, thank you.
Shook off her wig.
Yeah, so great night spent together. Next morning, or actually, sorry, big reveal. Edward finds out she was wearing a wig that whole time. Who knew? Everybody,
knew.
literally everyone knew that Edward
He
except
knew.
for him. He touched it, but why was he so
He touched
confused?
it and was like, oh, this feels like fake hair.
But then why would he saw it on the thing?
Because
and
it was just like
"Oh my
confirming
God."
kind of like what he thought.
Yeah.
You know?
So next morning she comes to breakfast. She's like a real person. She's got like long, beautiful red hair, wearing a robe. She's super fun. I think he likes her. I think he already likes her at this point. I think he liked her last night, let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't put up with this bullshit.
Yeah. And he's like, listen, I have to meet someone important tonight. I want you to come as my date. Here is a lot of money. Buy some clothes that are not
Well, hires her for the week.
clothes. And hires her for the week. And we'll pay her $3,000, which is a lot of money. I don't know how much
money?
their rent is, but what?
With what's
what's
now?
the
So they did
conversion?
it in 2016, so a couple years ago. Conversion would be $5,886, so it nearly doubled. So
Pretty good chunk of change.
So about for 6 days, right? So it's like $1,000 a day she was making, which is sweet.
Pretty good. So she goes off to go find some clothes. Doesn't go so well because she still only has her prostitute dress on, which is like
What does it look like? Describe it for the folks at home.
it's like a T that starts here, and then it's like the boobs are covered by like a little bit of fabric, and then there's like one thing of fabric that goes down,
Are there rings in the
connected
front?
to a ring,
Yeah.
one ring, and then like a little skirt. So it's clearly a prostitute uniform.
Tall boots.
And-
Black
oh yeah,
boots
and these
over the
these
knee.
crazy fucking boots
She's a coat on though.
and the coat.
But you know what? She wore these like giant, let's call them hooker hoops, which I'm like, Viv, like if you're going out during the day, maybe leave the hooker hoops at home because
Well, I
like
think-
that'll really be a
No,
tip off.
I mean maybe leave the boots at home. If anything,
She doesn't
like,
have any other shoes.
That's the biggest tell. But I feel for her. She goes out in fucking Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive, tries to find some clothes. No one will help her. They're like, we don't serve your kind here.
Here's a question: why is it called Rodeo Drive when it's spelled like rodeo?
I don't know.
Why isn't
Some-
Rodeo Drive?
Something
Is
rich
that some,
people
like,
made up.
snotty rich thing. They're like, it's rodeo.
I have no clue. But are you telling me that you only realized it was Rodeo just now?
Yeah. Well, I was like, in the movie, I was thinking, oh, that's like really weird. And then I'm like looking at the street sign. I'm like, but that's spelled like rodeo.
You learn something new every day.
I know.
So then she's like, goes back to the hotel. She's crying. She's sad. The sweet little manager, concierge guy, Barney.
Bernard? I think it's Bernard.
Maybe. Well, she calls him Barney, so I'm going to call him Barney. Whatever. But so after like a little bit of like a misunderstanding, he warms to her and realizes she's just trying to like find better clothes and no one will help her. So he calls up his friend who works at, did he say what store? Just like some fancy department store. Yeah. And he's like, go see this lady. She'll help you. So this woman is wonderful. She's great. Barbara?
Babs.
I don't know. She's MVP. But she helps Vivian find this nice little cocktail dress. And then Vivian needs like lessons in etiquette from Barney. So they do that whole thing. And then Edward comes to pick her up and she's waiting in the hotel bar. And he's like, I don't see her. Where is she? Where are the hooker boots? And who should turn around at the bar but this stunning lady in a wonderful ensemble. It's delightful.
And she
it's
goes,
delightful.
I like this scene. You're late. And he goes,
You're stunning.
you're stunning.
Sweetie's like, I'm going to write that down.
Oh my, I did. Dude, number 2 favorite
You
scene.
going to use it? How are you going to use it? You're like, tell a boy to say that? You're like,
No.
okay. Now,
It was just such a cute little exchange that they had.
It was sweet. So they go to this dinner with this guy. What's the old guy's name? Mercer? No, something. And he's trying to buy his company, and they're like, he's got this like shitty little grandson who's like a real shit. He's old. He's not like a little boy.
David.
Like, Grandpa. But he's copping an attitude, and then the old man's copping an attitude. He's like, I don't like your attitude, and then they get in like a weird argument, and they storm off. So Edward's like, ugh, terrible night. And he goes and he's like, I need to de-stress. And goes to the, the hotel and plays the piano for some night workers. I don't know. They look like construction workers. I was confused why they were at the hotel. Doing the laundry.
Of the tablecloths. They were like taking all the tablecloths. Yeah.
So then Vivian's like staying up all night until 3. She's like, where the fuck is this dude? So she goes and finds him. They have a great sex scene on the piano. It's great. Next day. It's so she's there for the week. So he brings her to all his little events, all his like schmoozing events. They have to go to like some fucking polo.
She gets
game.
a lot of clothes, and they're like slowly turning this, what was supposed to be a business relationship, right? Because she's paying for him. He's paying her to be his date for the week. But obviously it's a little bit more than that because they have like a greater connection. And Edward, stick in the mud that he is getting real softened up by sweet Viv. She's working her magic as only Julia Roberts can. Because she's like a little uncouth, but I think it's someone, when you're talking about an opposite attract situation, this one where it works really well, right? Because like she might have needed a little bit more structure and he needed a lot less structure. So they like kind of balance each other out. And they do some fun things.
It's true. Yep. They go to the opera. Yep. They go to that polo match. Yep. Little picnics in the park. Fun couple things. But at that polo match, his friend, Philip Stuckey, lawyer and friend, mostly rapist. Lawyer though, also casual rapist. Is like, where did you find that girl? And he doesn't want to tell him for obvious reasons. But then they see her talking to that fucking little shit grandson kid again. And he's like, Stuckey's like, she's giving him insider information. She's a spy. And he's like, she's not a spy. And he tells her, Edward tells Stuckey, she's not a spy. She's a hooker.
Literally, last person to tell in the world.
Terrible, terrible idea. So Stuckey's like, oh, really? That was great information. And he like struts over to Vivian. He's like, hey, this must be a change of scene from Hollywood Boulevard. And she's like, what? And she can't believe that Edward would do that to her. And then Stuckey like caresses her arm with like one little finger, and it's like it's so upsetting, and she's just so uncomfortable, and she's like, I want to get out of here. And then her and Edward kind of get in their first fight, and she's like, no one has ever made me feel the way that you did tonight, which is like, she's probably been with some really shitty people. So that sucks, Edward, you really fucked up. But then he apologizes, all's good, they're back in love. So the rest of the time, blah blah blah, week's winding down. Edward's gotten looser. He's cool now. He like makes a nice deal with the old man instead of a mean one. Yep. So that's all great.
Softening up.
But it's the last day, and Stuckey's mad that he like made some shitty deal. I don't know. I honestly.
He just like went rogue and like did his own thing and didn't like talk to Stuckey about kind of his plan.
Why are we in this boardroom for so long? Let's get out of it. And so he like marches over there to the hotel room, and he's like, where's Edward? And she's like, he's not here. And he's like, well, I'm so mad at my friend that I'm gonna rape you. And then it's it's like so fucked up, in that I don't know what is going through his head, that he's just like, need to go assault this woman now because I'm jealous / mad at Edward.
Crazy
it's so fucked
raper.
Up. So then Edward comes luckily at just the right moment, punches Stuckey, throws him out of the hotel room. He tries to get Vivian to stay longer, but she's like, nope, I gotta go. I can't fall in love.
No. She he's got to go back to New York. Oh, yeah. But he tells her, I'm going to set you up an apartment and basically give you money so you don't have to be a prostitute anymore, which is like great and all that. But like, she's not going to be a kept woman. Like, she wants to be together, and tells him, there's always going to be one of your friends who thinks that because if they find out that I used to be a prostitute, or that that's how we met or whatever, that they're always going to treat me like that, because they basically consider her like a second-class citizen, which is just awful and sort of like a large theme of this movie. Mm-hmm. That people, once a woman is a certain way, like that, they're not almost like even a person to you, So she doesn't want to sign up for that. Yeah. So they part ways. He pays her. And she goes home back to her apartment that she had with Kit, and has the brilliant idea to move to San Francisco. Now, she gives a lot of the money that she got from Edward to Kit, I think.
I don't know how much.
Yeah, I don't know.
Could have been a couple hundred. Right. Could have been 1,000.
Right. So she gives her some money, but then is basically like packing her shit as like, you know what, like I'm going to get a real job, and maybe I'll like finish high school, because she only went to like 11th grade. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Edward is like kind of having second thoughts and is like, oh man, like, am I letting someone get away? Like, should I go back with her? And he's kind of like trying to figure it out. So he gets his ride to the airport and finds out that the guy who's driving him to the airport also drove Vivian home. So he knows where Vivian lives because he didn't know where Vivian was. And kind of in the middle of the movie, Vivian tells this story about how when she was little, all she wanted was like a guy in a white knight to come and like rescue her. And she would have this like fantasy as a little girl, and we're just like that's always what she wanted, to be like whisked off her feet by Prince Charming. So Edward, smooth operator that he is, decides to make her dreams come true.
Woo! Pulls up in the limo. He's got flowers. He's like out of the moonroof. He's like, Vivian, Princess Vivian. And then he climbs the rickety staircase, even though he's afraid of heights, like petrified of heights. Climbs that up. They kiss. They're together. Hooray for love. Movie done.
For Hollywood.
The end. And that's the flick. So, thoughts?
Question on everyone's mind is,
Yes.
did they make it?
Oh. So are they like moving to New York now and they're going to like be together? Historically, Edward's relationships don't work, but maybe she changed things around. I can see it working. I can see
Me
it
too.
working.
I really think they did. Like I said, the opposite attract thing doesn't work in all couples, for sure. I think people think they do when they meet someone who's the opposite, but actually really shitty for them. And they always use that example. Opposite attract is not a constant thing, but it does work for a lot of people, especially when you need like a personality balance out. And I do think that maybe why Edward's previous relationships didn't exist, because he was kind of like dating kind of people the same person that he was, or similar class and stuff like that. That really he needed someone like that made him look outside of his little rich box and been like, wow, there's a whole world out here with like people that, you know, aren't wealthy and that don't have is like all this privilege that I have.
Get him out of his shell. Just be like, come on, come out.
But then like the opposite, and this is like kind of why I struggle with this movie, because it's a bit Svengali-esque, you know, talking about movies like My Fair Lady, okay? Or Svengali was like the original story where you have this guy sort of like controlling this woman, right? And it gets to be that way, not the whole way with Edward, but like a lot of his interactions with her is kind of gross in that sense. Like, stand up straight, like stop chewing gum.
Yeah,
like,
and he like at one
it's
point
gross.
refers to himself as her employer.
Yeah.
Which is like all kinds of creepy.
And he's obviously older. And then of course there's the money situation, right? So it's like that is like just really creeps me out. And like I said, that's not the whole movie for sure, and he doesn't do that the whole time. And then the part where like, she's like mad at him and he's like get back here, Vivian, I'm talking to you. You know, he like kind of treats her as this like infantile, very patronizing way, and I just hate that part of it, and I don't like it.
Yeah. Well, here's my problem with the movie is that the most interesting character obviously is Vivian, but we know like little to nothing about her. Like we get like one little sob story when they're like naked in the bed and like revealing all their secrets.
Do you remember?
It's like how she became a prostitute. Yeah. She like ran away or something.
Because she like always, when she's from Georgia, and she was like in high school and always fell for the wrong guy, she said. So she followed a wrong guy to L.A., and he like ended up dumping her, and she was too proud to go back home and be like, wow, that didn't work out. Which is like, so you picked prostitution instead? Like, oh my God, go back home. That's like just a, you know, I mean, that's dumb.
We all know that like it's the last resort is prostitution. So that's what happened. But you know, she made it work, and now she's an old hat at it.
But sorry, I think you were gonna make.
Oh yeah. So I mean, unfortunately, this movie kind of focuses on Edward too much and makes him like the central character, which is annoying to me because she's obviously the more interesting one. And how different would this movie be if it was really like more from her perspective and like more of her life and story? I just feel like that would be a better movie because I really struggle with all the Edward shit. Like, could give two shits about his company or like whatever the fuck he does, whatever this like merger, this like company, whatever old people thing is. It's like it's not for me.
Every time those scenes happen, you're like, where is Julia? Yeah. What is Julia doing? Like, I want to see Julia. My problem with movies like this, and Milk Money was a little bit like this too, right? So we talked about a hooker with a heart of gold. And in this case, you have Julia Roberts, who is like the most straight up hooker you've ever met. Doesn't do drugs, like flosses her teeth, is really sweet, is a pretty smart girl. I mean, is that really hookers? I mean, and then like the Melanie Griffith character was like kind of like that too. So it's like they're like not even like glamorizing it is the right word, just but being like, well, if we're going to use a hooker in this movie, it has to be the most like upstanding hooker you've ever met, who really just fell into that position out of desperation, has no other problems. Yeah. Like, really? Is that because like to be a hooker, like you got, you know, it's desperation, but like something else kind of has to take you there. And I always felt really uncomfortable about that. And like, I'm glad Julia got out of it and everything like that. You have her poor friend who's probably like still stuck there. So this is a good like point to talk about the alternate plot that I was telling you about.
Oh boy.
So when they first wrote this movie, it was this alternate plot where Vivian was addicted to cocaine. And there's a part in the scene where Edward is like, you can't do cocaine for the whole week. So she's like off drugs, I guess. And that's what like kind of cleans her up. But the whole premise is that she wants this money to like go to Disneyland with Kit. And that the end is them like getting all this money and then being able to go to Disneyland or something. Kind of weird.
Who wrote that?
That was like the first draft of like the whole plot.
Yikes.
And then they decided to kind of go with the hooker, like, you know, hooker heart of gold like angle and make it into this like more of this like love story. Because it was more a little bit realistic and dark and gritty, giving them like drug addictions and stuff, which is true.
I mean, we can't say for certain that every prostitute has a drug problem, but I think safe to assume, unless, I mean, the high class escorts probably a little different. But these kind of like street sex workers, I guess, maybe. But I feel, I don't think that's fair to use a blanket assumption like that. Yeah. But I do agree with you in that they definitely clean it up. Like if we need people to watch a movie about hookers, they got to be clean hookers.
Yeah, because there was like in the trivia, there was like all like basically every actress in Hollywood was like up for this role or auditioned for it or turned it down or whatever. And a lot of the reason that many of the actresses turned it down was because they didn't want to play a prostitute. So it's still pretty like not great to be playing a prostitute, which I totally get. And you know, we talked about this with Milk Money, like oldest profession in the world, right? That's what they always say, sex work. And I just hate the power imbalance that still exists with that, you know, that like no matter how much, like how gross you are, like it doesn't matter. As long as you have money, you can get like attractive girls to have sex with you. And I hate it. Like I hate it more than anything. And this like, I mean, obviously it's like romancing it a little bit. So it's like, well, like she was a hooker, but she just found this guy who was actually like really nice to her and wanted to make her this better person. Even though really I think she made him the better person. Like he didn't really change her at all. He gave her a better wardrobe, which is like, yes, right. She needed.
Which is like what people say about the white hero coming in to like save a black character. Right. And they're always, the defense is always like, but really they saved the white person. But like I don't know, but yeah, I agree there definitely.
And there's this like great line that like Kit says when she's like, man, she's like, you look good, when she sees Julia Roberts at the end and like she's giving her money and stuff, and she looks great. I mean, she's, you know,
I'm not a fan of those long, what are those shorts called? Are those culottes? I always say, I'm always like, is it culottes?
And Vivian being very smart is like, it's easy to clean up when you have a lot of money. Like your life is really. Okay, money comes with its own problems, obviously. And a huge point of this movie is that guy has tons of money, but is severely unhappy. He had a horrible childhood and can't find love and this and that. So it's like, but in this case, his money did buy love because like he met her because he could pay her. And then, yes, they like eventually fell in love. It's almost like what we were talking about with like, what's the movie we just did? Oh, like the Julia Stiles. Like
10 Things I Hate About
10 Things I Hate About You. Like, oh, how convenient is that? Like, oh, it was like kind of an unsavory plot to begin with. Like, oh, someone's paying you to like go out with this person, but it all works out in the end because like they ended up like liking each other. You know, it's like that kind of like cheap shot, which I just hate.
Sweetie dating service. That's what you want to build your dating service around. So embrace it, sister.
Because it's clearly successful, but it's just like
according to the movies.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I struggle with the any kind of prostitute plot line.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so yeah, and then the funny, also, I think what is really funny about this is the like like I know we're in Beverly Hills where things are very rich and people are very excited about money and very proper, but like the looks that people give Vivian are just very. I struggle with it. I'm like, can you guys be less obvious about gawking at this poor woman? Like, they're just like straight up staring at her. Don't you know how to stare at someone without being like noticed? Hello.
It's not.
But
it was the 90s.
Yeah, and in this movie too, they're also like making a real hard, heavy point here, being like, hookers are so crazy, they don't know anything. They don't know what pancakes are. They don't know what pricey, nice hotels are like. They don't know how to use opera glasses. Yeah. Like, it's funny.
Oh, definitely. And like for a country that I always say this about the US, like we don't have, like if you go to a place like Britain, there's like such like a caste system there. So it really is based on like money. And I feel like the US kind of prides itself on being like, we don't necessarily have that. Clearly we have like racial problems that are huge, but it's always like, you know, you can basically have nothing and then become a millionaire, right? Like this is, and that doesn't necessarily happen in other countries because you're like born into money and there's this sort of like level of class. But in this movie, the class system is like really apparent, right? Because you have someone like Julia Roberts, who's this prostitute, who's like very uncouth, like as I was saying, like doesn't know anything about silverware and it's just like saying like, yeah, order me whatever. And it's just like doesn't stand up straight and chews gum. And like there's like all these things. And then you have, when you have money, it's all this like polished presentation and you like go to, you know, polo things, and you wear these nice, you wear hats and gloves and purses that match your shoes and like all this stuff. And that's super foreign to Vivian, but she embraces it pretty quick because it's true. Like she's a prostitute from the lower class, but you slap on a nice dress on her, who can tell the difference?
And I think it's just, but also it's not just like that she's lower class. Like I wouldn't know how to fucking use opera glasses. Give me a break.
Yeah.
With fork to, I wouldn't have known that either. It's just...
It's a fancy thing. Yeah, we just don't have that. I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, money is such, like, I don't know. I just feel like in the U.S., like, you can have money but be, like, completely don't know any of those things at all. Mm-hmm. Like, money is not necessarily, like, a class thing here. Or if you go to, like, the UK, that's, like, such a huge thing. But I do find that interesting.
Cool. What else would you like to talk about, sweetie?
Okay, so I have like a lot of good lists here. So let's go into favorite scenes because there's some real classic ones in this movie, and they really just warm my heart. Yeah. And I just want to talk about them. Okay, so probably like my favorite one is the bathtub scene, which like for me like cements Julia Roberts in my mind is like so great in this. So she's like, can I take a bath before I go? She's at this point, she's only staying that like one night. And then she's like, he's going to leave and whatever. And she's like, can I take a bath before I go? So she's in this amazing bath. So first of all, they're in like the penthouse suite of this like amazing hotel in Beverly Hills. It's giant. I mean, it's like the whole top floor of like this hotel. They have their own bar.
It's ugly as fuck.
Yeah, the decorations are disgusting, but it's like, it's unbelievable sweet. So it's this giant bathtub. And she takes her little Walkman in there and she's like singing to Prince Kiss. And he's on the phone with Stuckey and like Stuckey's like, who's that singing? And he's like, oh, it's like the housekeeping like singing. And she's this horrible voice and she's singing the Prince song. And the best part about it, and with her eyes closed, which is like, that's interesting. How long would you like sing with your eyes closed like that and just like not open them? Because she does it for like quite a long time.
Yeah.
The best part of that for me and what made it be like Julia Roberts is a fucking star. When who knows if this was like the direction or she like made this up, but when she's like singing along to the Prince song and then she's like, wait, don't have to be cruel to rule my world. Ain't no particular time. I just want your extra time and then she like does the kissing noises is like my favorite thing in the whole world. And I'm like, yeah, Julia, you're amazing in this role.
Oh, I like her in a lot of things. I think it's but yeah, that's a good scene. One of my favorite scenes is her reveal at the bar when she's wearing the nice cocktail dress. I just I'm obsessed with her hair.
Oh my god, her hair's beautiful.
Yeah, the dress is gorgeous, but like her hair, I'm really into that.
Question about that dress.
Yeah.
Okay, is that like a built-in choker with the dress, or was that a separate choker? I think it was built in. Yeah, I love
just,
that.
Like, part of the dress.
It was such a good cut on her. It was like lacy and black, and she has like really nice gams. So she had this like
Bridget. not Barb.
Oh, Bridget, yeah.
Bridget knows her shit.
And like she has her hair up in like what would have been those like banana clips that kind of like make it into this like French twist, but like with all like basically like a horse's mane, but beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. And then closely followed on the heels of that is the piano sex scene, which is my other favorite part. And I remember watching that when I was little and being like, whoa.
Yeah.
This
Feeling
is it.
so scandalized.
Yeah. No, just being like, wow, I can't wait to have sex on a piano.
Oh my
and like
God.
just like excited about life. But now watching it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to have sex on a piano. Like it's just not going to happen for me.
Okay, it's too loud.
It is because it's like ding, ding, ding. And yeah.
So all those like piano noises were done like in post production because the actual noises when she was like on the piano like gyrating was like not very like harmonic. It didn't sound really nice.
Don't say.
Yeah, which is kind of awesome. And then in between that scene is the snail scene, which I also love, which is like such a trope in so many movies where escargot really like messes with people and they're like, oh my God, how am I going to like eat this? It's so crazy.
Is it other things than Princess Diaries or is it?
Princess Diaries.
Or is it even Princess
Punky
Diaries?
Brewster?
Maybe it's not in Princess Diaries. It might be a different shellfish.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe Punky Brewster's oysters, but anyway, just like rich people food. Obviously, you're like, what the fuck is this? BT Dubs escargot is delicious. I had it both. Oh, I've had it in France many times. And when you have it in France, it's basically like garlic butter snails. They taste like rubber bands dipped in garlic butter, which is pretty good. You put garlic butter on anything, you're like, that's delicious. And then I had these ones in Greece this summer. Oh my God, it was like this red wine sauce. They looked exactly like those ones because they were like kind of big honking snails. And I basically had that experience where I could not figure out the fuck how to get those out of this fucking shell. And I may or may not have said the line, slippery little suckers, which is so great. So she's like playing with it and it goes, pfft, and the guy catches the shell and she's like, ugh, slippery little suckers. And then the little waiter guy is like happens all the time or something like that.
Does
I love
it?
that.
Probably
So
not.
cute.
He's just making her feel better. I love it. Yeah, that's a good scene. So my next favorite one is the shopping montage, which I love a good fucking shopping montage. Let's be real. But he gives her his credit card and Vivian goes shopping. And it's of course cut to the like Pretty Woman song. So dun, 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 dun. And then they show her kind of like trying on all the outfits, and then she's walking down the street holding all the bags, and she's wearing this like beautiful black hat and like a white dress and gloves again, and she just looks so fancy, and everyone's like, "Who's that girl?"
And then pairs
Who's
that when
woman?
she goes into the
And then she
store.
goes back into the store. That was the people were mean to her. She's like, "Hi, do you remember me from the other day?" And she's like, "You wouldn't serve me or whatever." It's good revenge. Big mistake. Huge. So great
I love
stuff.
that line.
Yeah.
I say that one a lot. The opera scene. So classic. Probably like the most like iconic image from this movie, right? The most gorgeous like red dress you've ever seen. It looks so good on her and it fits her like a glove. She white gloves. Has her hair like all up, but they do this cool thing. She's this like kind of cool bang situation that they like always kind of keep like loose out from her like updos, which I love. And you would think like redheads in red clothing are like too much red, but her hair is kind of auburn and it like offsets it like so beautifully. And then fucking Edward with his connections is like, oh, BT Dubs, like I got you this $250,000 necklace that like you get to wear just tonight. What? Crazy. So that is like the really famous scene where he's like showing her the necklace and she's like, what the fuck is that? And kind of goes to touch it and he like slams the box on her, which was totally improv by Richard Gere. And her actual laugh is probably the most famous scene in this whole movie, right? And that was totally like off the cuff Julia Roberts just like being surprised and laughing, and they kept it in there. Like that's kind of amazing that the most iconic scene is one that was like not even in the script. I love that shit. So then they go to the opera, and he's like a big opera buff, which is also a very rich person thing, right? Like why would Vivian know anything about opera? And he's like, you know, either you're gonna love, there's two kinds of people. You either like love opera and it'll change your life forever, or you'll like kind of like it but it really just won't have any like lasting impact on you. So it's La Traviata, which is about a prostitute who falls in love with a rich man.
What are the odds? Did he look it up and was like, this is perfect?
I know. This is our story. And like, of course she cries, like very, very emotional. So she's the one who loves opera. And she's leaving, and this old lady's like, did you enjoy the opera, darling? And she's like, oh my God, I loved it so much. I almost peed my pants. And the old lady's like, what? And then Richard Gere like totally like covers up. She's like, she said she liked it more than Pirates of Penzance. And then you see the old lady like processing it, being like, wait a minute, she didn't say that. Oh my God, I love that part. It's so funny.
It is. It's a good part. It's a good part for sure. I don't think I have any other super favorite scenes. Maybe just the ending scene. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But other than that, I didn't have any
But
others.
also scene that sticks out, the sexual assault scene.
Oh, well. I mean, I thought we were talking about favorite scenes, but... Okay. We move into a different list now?
Yeah.
What's this?
Scenes that stood out.
Okay. That scarred you?
Yeah.
Okay. So talk about it. Walk us through it.
Okay. So like we said, like Stuckey's really pissed. The deal fell through. Or didn't fall through, but it just went away that he didn't think, you know, it was going to go. And he was kind of blindsided by Edward because Edward kind of went rogue. I mean, it is his company. But Stuckey's worked with him for 10 years and they were kind of like best buds. And I think also he's like weird, like kind of in love with Edward in sort of like a platonic way, you know, and he's used to being his like little number one person. And then now that he has Vivian, like he's kind of taking a back seat. So I think he's like a little jealous of Vivian too. But once he learns she's a prostitute, like he's like, well, it doesn't matter now because she's like less of a person, which is wrong. And anyway, so he's like basically trying, like taking his rage out on Vivian and is like, does this like gross thing, basically being like, well, like maybe if I like fuck you, then like I'll feel as good as Edward. I forget like his rationale. Yeah. So he's like starts touching her leg. And so first of all, like good Vivian, like good for you for sticking on that couch, but I would have been like fucking off that couch in 2 seconds. She like sits near him and obviously she's very uncomfortable. It's Stuckey and she's like very used to people talking and dealing with her like that. I think she's trying to be polite. I don't even know. But she like stays on this couch. So he like grabs her leg and she's like, get off of me. And then he basically just gets so handsy with her and she's flipping out. I think she bites him. And then he slaps her in the face so much that she falls on the ground. Imagine getting hit so hard that you like literally fall off a couch.
No.
Holy shit. So then he's on top of her. And okay, this is not funny, but like Jason Alexander is teeny weeny. He's probably like 5'5", and Julia Roberts is like a tall woman. So their like, proportions don't match up at all, but he's like flipping out on her and is like trying to hold her down, like essentially I guess to like rape her. And then luckily Edward like saves the day and comes in and then punches him and stuff like that. But it was a really horrible sexual assault scene that like always stuck with me as a little kid and really like messed me up. Like we said, also knowing that like at that point he was or a couple years later was George Costanza.
Yeah, and then like the really sad thing about that scene is like afterwards Edward gets her ice to put on Vivian's face and she's like, why do guys always know just the right way to like slap a woman across the face so that it really hurts? And I was like, girl, how many times you been slapped across the face? Awful. So sad. And she's like, do boys get taught that in school? Ugh, sad, but terrifying.
Yeah, awful.
Could be happening in today's climate. Unclear.
Yeah. Well, I mean, being a prostitute is so dangerous.
I know.
You're like, and that is a very big theme in the beginning of this movie because the movie opens up, or at least the like prostitute part, with like one of the women they know being like found in a dumpster dead.
I thought it was drug overdose. No? Serial killer? I don't know.
No, I thought it was like the pimp killed her or something.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe it was drug overdose.
But yeah,
why would she be in a dumpster then?
Because someone like freaked out and hid her in there because they didn't want to be blamed. I don't know. I don't know what people do. But yeah, that's like a common thing, right? Is that psychopaths / serial killers pick up prostitutes and then kill them because they're like disposable people that they think people won't miss or won't care about, and it's like awful. But yeah, super dangerous. Any other scenes that scarred you, sweetie?
No,
just that one.
Yeah.
Wow. I was always really interested in the divot scene, putting the like cool. What do they call it? The
divots.
Traditional, no, but they're like, didn't they like call it something? The traditional divot stomping of the divots. And then the announcer's like, stay away from the steaming divot, which is like horse poop. But polo's such a weird game. It's like
also very like high class. We don't see a lot of that here. I mean, you do in like the more richer cities, but we don't have that in Boston.
Oh yeah.
We're real blue collar here. I mean, there's super old money here, but like we don't have definitely like as much of it as other cities.
There could be polo games around here.
Oh sure. I mean, we are not going to any. I'll tell you that.
Hell no. H2O. I had a good anecdote and now I freaking forget it. All right, you talk. I'll think of it.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about fashion. a couple different ways here.
Fashion.
Okay, first of all, the 90s prostitute style is like the best. It's like my favorite thing. Going along Vivian's first outfit, as we said, which was pretty awesome. Those boots, number one. She picks this weird blonde wig, though, to like have as her like prostitute persona, I guess, because she always was very guarded about like not anyone know who she like really was, I guess.
But
she liked
uses
to keep
her
that
real
kind of
name.
personal. Yeah, that was kind of weird. So then I have to ask you, what would your prostitute style be?
Oh, style.
Like what wig would you put
I'm
if you were going to do a wig?
I'm
What would you wear?
Not a short bob, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, that bob did her no favors.
I'm always into like the super like long, curly, like romantic style kind of hair. I don't know. I mean, I can't wear long length things, right? If you're a prostitute, is that not allowed?
Yeah, I
If I
think
wore
it's
like
mostly
a nice
short.
dress, if I was like the unassuming prostitute.
Yeah. Well, that could be your shtick. I mean, it was a lot of minis, right? A lot of these like big earrings. They like run into one of these prostitutes like early on who has the most hideous necklace.
What
I don't
was
even know
that?
what that was.
It looked
was
like those hair clips they put in your hair at the hairdresser to like
yes.
keep
and
them
then
up.
she did have a really giant gross hair clip.
Oh, okay.
And like Kit wears like a lot of tiny little skirts and like her look. She's much more of a casual prostitute, and she looks kind of like a little
Or,
kid
like
too.
jean jackets, and she's
Yeah.
short, and so
Yeah, she's so cash.
Yeah.
But I think that 90s prostitute style is hilarious. And then just the style in general of this movie. So like once she gets her nice clothes, what was your favorite outfit? Is it the black one?
The cocktail dress?
Yeah.
No, definitely the opera dress. I think
Okay.
I just really love that. I do, and I think we brought this up another time because there's like a mural at AMC that has different famous shots from movies, and they use the brown polka dot dress.
I love the brown
and I
polka dot
do
dress.
love that dress, but I wouldn't pick that one out as like the iconic dress of the movie.
No,
I would
but-
pick the opera one, right?
Yes, no,
but
definitely.
I do love that dress.
I love that dress so much.
I still wish it was like a black or
No,
like
I just think I love it almost because it is like you don't see a lot of brown with white polka dot. It's like
Brown is
and
a
I don't
terrible
think-
color.
but I don't think she would look as good with her coloring in like a black and white scenario.
Yeah.
So I think it was right.
That's true.
I love that hat. She has adorable shoes. She has a bag with it, and it fits her so well. I love that
She have
dress.
gloves in that one too?
Yes.
Yeah.
She had white gloves.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Love it. And just in general, like all the clothes, they just really like do such a good job with that. I was obsessed with it.
I love, and her like silk nighties are nice
Yes,
too.
all her lingerie, even her prostitute lingerie before
Glorious.
she even got like with all like the new money. I
It's
like
a
that.
little
It was a
trashy, that like
yeah.
purple with the black lace.
Yeah.
It's a little trash.
Yeah.
But it still is nice. Like it could have been worse. It could have been gross. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's like the thing you should spend time and
right.
thought on. I guess. 'cause
Oh, yeah.
the men will see that. The
And then
most.
I like how there's so many hats in this movie too. And we talk about a lot about how like hats are. We wish they could be a thing again because I love hats, and they are kind of slowly coming back, but they'll never be to the level where like everyone wore a hat with their nice outfit. And
can
again,
start
that's
it.
like a super rich person thing to like wear hats and gloves. It's like so outdated,
to have
but I
a
love
hat
it.
box.
Yes. Oh my god, she had a hat box.
She did have a hat box, but she had so many more hats
Yeah.
than the one. Can you fit more than one hat in a hat box?
Yeah.
How many?
Well, as long as they're the same size, you just stack them up.
What if they're not
I
the
just
same
feel
size?
like too ironic or something when I wear a hat. It's just like, you know, I remember we went to that amazing hat store in
Is
like
that the right way to use
I don't
that
think
word?
that's the right word, but it's like remember we went to the hat store in San Francisco
Yes.
and like it was really expensive hat store. They were all like over $100, but I got one in like the bargain bin. And it was like a very bohemian chic sort of one. It was beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah, I think I still paid like $80 for it or something. And I've like literally never wore it. I can't like figure out like
know.
how
You
that
were-
fits with my style.
It's not your prostitute style.
No,
It's not part of it.
I
It's
know.
not part
I
of the
want to
plan.
be a hat wearer.
We'll
and
figure it out.
I just would. I don't know. I just think I need to find the hat that's for me. Like I'm rocking the Straffadors, and like I really love that, and that really fits. But I just need more hats in the world, and I would feel like less insecure about wearing one. I think.
Wow. Okay. Well, that can be your goal.
Let's all wear hats.
that can be your resolution, New Year's resolution
Yeah,
for
that's a
next
good one.
year. So yeah, we'll do it. What else you got?
Okay, people who were also going to play this part.
Uh-huh.
Molly Ringwald. Couldn't see it.
Why did they need her to be a redhead? That's an interesting
They didn't need her to
question.
be.
Well, it seemed to be the thing they wanted. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, I think Molly Ringwald was sort of at the end of her like peak time, so that maybe is why she didn't get the role. Meg Ryan.
Too cute.
Yeah. too cute. Sandra Bullock. I could have seen Sandra Bullock.
Of course. Sandy can be in anything,
Yeah,
you guys.
she is like kind of, I don't know, I think her and Julia have had somewhat similar like career trajectories, let's say. Like they're both were kind of America's sweetheart for like a while.
Have they ever been in a movie together?
Good question.
I think so.
I don't think so.
Sad.
Yeah, I mean, she's in like the new Oceans stuff, but Julia wasn't in.
Right.
Was in the other Ocean stuff. Interesting. And then like literally the whole trivia, like I said, was like every other actress in like the entire world was like she was up for this role. She turned down this role. Like Jennifer Connelly like turned down this role. It was like literally everyone who was acting at that time. It was bizarre.
Crazy.
I know.
Crazy.
Okay. And I think that's basically it. My last question for you. Oh, no. Sorry. Then there's a couple 90s songs that like I just love in this movie that are so well placed, and I think the soundtrack is like pretty damn awesome. Obviously, Pretty Woman is in this soundtrack,
Pretty Woman,
which is very iconic, and that's a great song.
Who sings that?
Roy Orbison.
Roy
Great
Orbison.
song.
Yep. I like that. My favorite part is when he goes, "Mercy."
Pretty Woman.
So another one. What was the other? Oh, My Girl. These Stand By Me. These songs that people I feel like use because they're like, let's title the movie whatever this is.
Well, you know what the other title was? The working title was this for a while before they put the soundtrack together, and we're like, we should do Pretty Woman.
Cup of Squat.
3,000.
Oh, that's how much money she.
Exactly. And you're like,
stupid.
well, that could have gone like who knows what that movie's about? 3,000.
I don't want. Yeah, that's terrible.
So there's two like key 90s songs I just like loved and sang out loud to when they were playing in the movie, and I think you enjoyed them too.
I did. I was singing them all. Singing the first one all day.
What was the first one?
I'll get over you. I know I will. I'll pretend my ship's not sinking, and I'll tell myself I'm over you, 'cause I'm the king of wishful thinking. Da-da-da-da-da-da. That's a great song. That guy kills it. I mean, it's just so impassioned. What's his name again?
So the band is called Go West, if you remember.
Nope.
And I remember that because the music video from the Mickey Mouse Club, when I was first introduced to JC Chazé,
No, we looked
was
it
to
up.
that, wasn't
we looked
it?
it up, and it was not.
And he
JC.
wasn't on it?
Yeah, remember we were so disappointed.
Damn.
It was a different. He
Faux
did like
memory.
he did like a Richard Marx one
Okay,
or something.
you're right.
But
You're right.
yeah, I forget who was in this one, but it was that other guy, the other kid, not JC. So
Okay,
yeah.
you're right. Okay, and then my favorite one. So if y'all don't know, like one of the greatest 80s loose term, group was Roxette, which I feel like they were from, like Scandinavia. I don't know, one of those
Are they
countries.
different from Roxanne?
Yes.
Okay.
What's Roxanne? That's a song.
Isn't that another band?
Roxette. It was a guy and a girl, and she kind of looked like Annie Lennox. She had kind of like that look to it, and the guy had like glasses and like kind of like shaggy dark hair. They're from like, I mean, we can look it up, but I feel like Sweden, Norway, Germany. I don't know, like one of those. So they had that song. I know a couple of their songs, like Fading Like a Flower. Every time I see you, oh, I try to hide away. The one in this one, though, it's when it's like very sad and she's like leaving in the limo and it's getting like, oh, like, did I make the right decision? Whatever. Is the song It Must Have Been Love, which is so good.
It must have been love,
but it's over now. From the moment we touched till the time had run out. Hey, it must have been love, but it's over now. It was all that I wanted.
Oh my God, stop it.
Now I'm leaving. I'm gonna listen to that when I get home. I love when you like hear a song and you're like, it's been so long. I can't wait to listen to it on repeat all day.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Roxette. Wait, they also did that song that's like, she's got the looks, right?
She's got the looks.
Okay. Sorry I brought it up. My neighbors are like, this
There's another
bitch.
one that's really good too. Oh, what is it? I can't think of it, but look up that band, guys.
wow.
You'll be very pleasantly
Yeah.
surprised.
Good songs, good tunes, good 90s flick. Anything else we're missing? Did you want to tell the story? No. You were like, I'm telling a story. I forget. Maybe not. No.
Who does it work out for? Cinder fucking Rella. I love that part. Because it's true, guys. Like, it doesn't work out for anybody.
You love Kit.
She was right, though. Like, it doesn't really work out for a lot of people. But it does work out for some people.
Especially when they're in a movie. Fancy that. Okay, cool. So that's it. That's all she wrote. Okay. Well, we thank you for listening to us. Thanks, as always, for listening. You can find us on Twitter at The Sweetie Club or on Instagram at Large Marge Sent Us. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.